Thank you guys for being here. Can everyone hear me okay in the back? I can project a little bit, but I've got a microphone here too if we need it. Thank you for being here. Thank you to Janie and Boomy and Andrea, who's definitely working very hard in the back to set everything up for you guys. I'm just happy to be here. Thank you to Loving Arms Care for the lunch. It looks really good. I'm not eating it right now, but I wish I was. But I hope you all are enjoying. So thank you so much for joining me. I'm so happy to be here. You know, you all saw the title of the class today. We're going to be talking about marketing and social media tips, right? But even moreover, we're going to be talking about creating consistent content, which I love in alliteration, so that is the title of the presentation. Because really, when you think about social media, you think about connecting, right? And that connection stems from creating consistent content. We don't get anywhere without a plan. We can't implement that plan without that consistent content. So that's where we're starting today. That's the title of the presentation. And again, thank you all for being here. Okay, so before we get into things, I did just want to do a little housekeeping. First things first, I am a little sick. I'm kind of recovering from a cold, so if you hear me cough or see me kind of going over there for some water, just know that I'm totally fine, not contagious, but I did just want to let you guys know that's what's going on. We all know it's flu season right now, so not the ideal time. And another piece, you know, I would really love for this to be interactive, right? I know like every presenter in the history of presentations says that, but it's true, because you're going to get so much more out of this if we interact, if we talk to each other, talk to your neighbor if you have one near you, talk to the people behind you if you don't have anyone next to you, and just have a conversation, right? So at the end, there will be like a more defined kind of time for question and answers, but if you have a question, just let me know, raise your hand. If there's kind of a lull in the conversation, just blurt it out, and I'll be happy to take care of that. So that's my little housekeeping. And we can just go ahead and dive right in. Oh, that's a very large picture. Like I said, my name is Nadira Muhammad, if you don't know me. So a little bit about me. I know, I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but I did just want to give you a little bit of introduction because most of you guys I don't know, which I would love to connect after this little caveat. But I graduated from George Mason University in 2020, which I have to pause there for like the 2020, the COVID, all of that madness. And I got a degree in English, concentrating in writing and rhetoric. So, 2020, right? What was happening? We had, hello, COVID. I'm graduating with my degree, I'm so happy, and then the unemployment is in the toilet, right? So and on top of, people losing their lives and just really, struggling with this trauma that we're all trying to process together as a community. So this was probably the worst time to graduate in the history of ever. So really great start for me in the job field. But after that, I got my first full-time job, and it was very lucrative and really amazing making cookies at Wegmans. And there's no shade. I love Wegmans. Are we Wegmans shoppers?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay, good. I love Wegmans. There is nothing wrong with Wegmans, but it was a bit of a far cry from English and writing and rhetoric. But, I really think there are things that Wegmans taught me that I still use today, right? If you don't know, Wegmans is one of the top 100 companies, I think in the nation, but definitely worldwide as well, I believe. So what they prioritize at Wegmans is incredible customer service, right? And talking to people and engaging with people. So that is what I learned, and that's where I really learned to continue that at Storyhouse now, which I'll get into in a little bit. But beyond that, cookies, right? I'm working in the bakery. But, and even though it doesn't seem related, it is, because one, I know how to make things look really pretty, which you guys all know, that is a skill in marketing for sure. But also, I know how to sell things to people. I would come in, these giant trays of cookies were like $80, right? And I'm like, okay, not only should you buy this for $80, but they're also 1,000,000 calories, but just stay with me. You need these, and you're going to need them at your dinner table, at Christmas, at Thanksgiving, at all the holidays. So that taught me that I can be persuasive, right? And that's what English taught me as well, mastering the language, mastering that conversation, and being able to connect with people and convince them that, hey, you really need this. So, left Wegmans, started my job in Charlottesville, thank goodness, and I worked for a luxury magazine called Wine and Country here in Charlottesville for a little bit. So this I cannot tell you how excited I was, not only to finally have a job in my field, right, but to be here in Charlottesville. It's totally changed my perspective on what it's like to live in a community. And I know I did want to take a moment to talk about, I know we're all healing and grieving and mourning the lives that were lost. I did just want to kind of have some space for that and just pause for that for a little bit. It is not lost on me, you know, that we're kind of in the epicenter of everything. So it is really traumatic, and you know, I want this to be a safe space, and it is really, really hard. So I definitely wanted to take pause for that. But what it shows you is that Charlottesville is such a connected community, right? I feel like it's this perfect mix of like big city, downtown, and then like country and equestrian and wine, which is like the best combination ever. So I totally fell in love with Charlottesville. And then a little bit after that, I started at Story House Real Estate, which is where I am today. That's my coworker in the front, everybody. Started at Story House, and it's been almost a year now, and it's just been the most magical, amazing experience. So I'm really happy. That's a little bit about me, and thank you guys for being here. And I'm going to be going back and forth also to change the slides too. Before we dive into anything, I really wanted to also take a moment to recognize my partner. We as a unit are the marketing team, and this is Amelia. And so we work together. She is really the person who's making everything look beautiful, right? She has a background in graphic design, so we work together. I come in with the SEO knowledge, which is search engine optimization, for anyone who doesn't know. I have my background again, my degree in writing and rhetoric, and of course, together we kind of create the content that we're using on our website, on our social media, on our newsletter, on our blogs. So we as a unit work together, and it would just be remiss of me to not mention her and how incredible she is. So this beautiful presentation, I was very grateful that she helped me with. So definitely very appreciative for her. And now we get into Story House. She's not here today, but most of you probably know Sasha Tripp, right? Okay. So Sasha started Story House about 4 years ago, maybe 4.5 years ago. And we would not be here today without her, of course, so I have to mention her. And you know, we've been able to win a lot of awards and local competitions, which I'm really grateful for, and we're all really grateful for at Story House. But since I've been able to come on, we've almost doubled our follower count. We're on track to double that by the end of the year, which is very exciting for me. We have a new voice, we have a new blog, we have this revitalized relationship with our audience through social that we didn't have before. Because that's what social media is all about, is that connection, right? It's that consistency that creates that connection that really, really perpetuates this really positive relationship. So it's super cyclical. We love to see it, and it couldn't be possible without Sasha starting out. So definitely want to give a shout out to her. But before we get into everything, I did just want to say, you know, all of us are probably small business owners, we're entrepreneurs, whatever the situation may be, we have colleagues, we have coworkers. You know, you don't have to have this entire dedicated marketing team. You don't have to have an Adira and an Amelia because that is a lot of bandwidth, right? So I just want you to know, before we get into everything today, don't feel overwhelmed or underwhelmed if you're, you know, at a point where now you're kind of revitalizing your marketing and making goals for next year. You know, don't feel overwhelmed by this. If you have a personal assistant, maybe you can have her or them or take on some hours. And if you have a virtual assistant, maybe you can also get that too. Or even if it's just you by yourself making this content, that is totally fine as well. All we're going to talk about today is implementing a plan in a way that works for you. And I'll emphasize that over and over again. And another thing I want to emphasize is you see it right at the top, right? On every slide, an actionable plan to create social media success. So it's not just about marketing and social media strategies, it is, but I want today to be actionable. I want us to leave here with something that you know you can implement today. Not tomorrow, not next week, not next year, right? But today. And then the goal is to see where we are November 17th, 2023. That's what I would love to see. So that growth, you have to implement a plan that works for you. And that comes into divvying the tasks up in a way and a team that works for you. So, starting with what we're going to talk about today. So, I kind of divvied this up into 6 categories, right? And I've divvied it up even a little bit further. This is kind of like 3 and 3, just to kind of wrap your mind around it. We're going to start today with the first 3, plan, content, and consistency. And what we're going to end with is research and educate, branding, and review. So, these first three are really focused on just getting the content down, just getting that consistency, getting that regularity, right? And then the second half, if you're at a point in your social media and your marketing where you're now focused on next steps, right? You're focused on what's gonna happen next year, you're gonna focus on how to engage with your audience. Because it's one thing to sit there and make consistent content, that's all great and fine, but how do you engage with your audience, right? How do you know that the content you're making is reaching the people you want it to reach? Because you can sit there all day, and I do this all day, sit there and create a post that's perfectly curated and really well done, and I've done all the research, I've done all the planning, but if no one's caring about it, what's the point, right? We're all probably work in some way in small businesses or community businesses. We're really focused on connecting with our audience, connecting with our people. So those last three categories are going to be focused on that. But before we get into that, of course, we're going to start with, one, how do I even create consistent content, right? And if it's just you, this is probably really hard, right? So that's why you're probably here today. And creating consistent content, I always start with this because it's the first thing that we want to focus on when we think about social media. We want to see frequency. We want to see consistency because that's what the algorithm really, really loves, okay? Our brains, right, as humans, we love patterns. We love when we can recognize things. We love when we can see something and go, oh my goodness, that's Story House. I see the pink, I see the blue, I see the teal. That's Story House, we love that. So does Instagram algorithm, so does Facebook algorithm, so does LinkedIn, all the resources, right? So creating consistent content is all about creating that repetition, creating that pattern, creating that consistency. So that's where we want to start today. And that starts with a plan. So throughout this presentation, I'm gonna have like a little bit of hard truths or like a little bit of like drop the mic moment. I wish I had a mic on me. And that starts right now. So if you want to get good at social media or really comfortable with it, you gotta spend time on it, right? And I feel like this is really hard for all of us who are super busy and doing a million things, right? But there are so many people and resources and really successful people who are saying, don't go on social media, it's a waste of time, and you should just delete all your apps. And I totally understand that because my screen time, you guys know when you get that screen time notification on your phone, it's like 1 million. It's really, really sad. So I definitely resonate with understanding that social media can be a big time waster, right? But if you're the type of person like me, like I'm sure a lot of us here, plan it into your schedule. Make it work with what you have going on in your day, in your week, in your month, right? So first things first, you gotta spend time on social media if you aren't already. If you are, you can take it a step further in your plan and explore what are the most compelling, popular hashtags in your area. And there are a lot of ways to do this. I didn't list them down below, but if you just Google, for us at Story House, we're thinking about real estate Charlottesville, right? The first thing anybody's gonna do when they think about buying a house or selling a house, they're gonna Google real estate Charlottesville, realtor Charlottesville, all that good stuff. So we wanna know, what are people searching for? What are those key words that people wanna see? And then we wanna put those in our captions and our hashtags. So you can always Google most popular hashtags in Charlottesville, most popular hashtags in Virginia if you're a national company, most popular hashtags on Instagram, on Facebook. So definitely want to take some time to explore that. And with that being said, we get to this, which maybe looks a little bit crazy, I'm not sure. We are very, very formulaic. Madison can attest to this at Story House. We just like everything to have, a system and a plan and really organize things in a way that makes sense for us, right? And you don't have to do this, but I really, really recommend it because not only are you gonna see, for us, maybe we're doing a listing on Thursday when it goes active. Maybe we're doing an educational post. Maybe we're doing an inspirational quote on Tuesday, Wednesday. But if you just start by mapping out the types of content that you want to create, and I do recommend divvying it up in this way so that it corresponds with your color scheme. Again, I keep reiterating, our brain loves patterns, right? The algorithm loves patterns. So I cannot tell you enough time to have a pattern, to have a structure that is really, really helpful. And you can see here on the right, you've got the 9 little blocks there. They're a little bit gray, so I don't know if you can see those, but this is what a standard Instagram grid looks like when you're looking on your phone, right? So what we do, we take those and we just blow it up here. We see pink and pink is really well divvied out. purple purple, our standard story house colors, we've got navy blue, teal, all the good colors. So this is how we do it. There are so many resources online. If you just Google, you know, Instagrid layout, Instagrid structure, this will pop right up and it'll do the work for you. So I really, really recommend starting with this little map just to get you kind of comfortable with understanding color scheme, understanding color theory, and just knowing that this is a great, great, great starting point. Okay. This may even look a little bit crazier, this one here, but again, trying not to overwhelm you, just trying to give you all the tools that you may need and want. So this is what we use at Storyhouse. It's called Hootsuite. It should be down at the bottom. Here she is. Hootsuite right there. So what this is a scheduling tool. For us, we have, like I said, myself, we have Amelia, and we have Sasha as well, all collaborating on different projects at one time, which can get really, really chaotic if you don't have something like Hootsuite, which I will always advocate for. So the benefit of this, built-in proofing for team collaboration. If you have a team, this is really, really great because you're gonna allow people to go in and say, hey, I don't like this word, maybe we change it to this, hey, I don't like the way this sounds, maybe we change it to this language, and then we can do the same with images as well. So Hootsuite is really, really good. Beyond, if you don't have a team, right? It just develops a consistent, I keep going back to that word consistent, right? Consistent and manageable posting schedule because, again, we're all very busy people. We don't have time to sit there every single day, most of us anyway, to schedule a post to go out at 9 a.m. every Tuesday, right? So this is really beneficial if you have a busy schedule. You can schedule it all out and you can plan it. So best thing about Hootsuite as well, built-in analytics to track post performance. This is really, really essential because kind of the next step, and I'll go into this later on, but after getting the consistency down, you're gonna wanna review. You're gonna wanna track your results, right? So that you know, November 17th, 2023, I know that I wanna reach this goal. I know that I wanna have this amount of followers, this amount of reviews. So that is the benefit of Hootsuite. There are so many other resources, like we said, Buffer, Sprout Social, Zoho Social, Hey Orca, those are all really, really great. Okay, this slide, I had to add this slide in here because I probably get this question just from people on my own team like 3 times a week. It's always, when is the best time to post? Oh my goodness, I don't know. And I will say, before we even kind of dive into this, take this with a grain of salt. This is kind of a culmination of just my own research and what I've found, and I know that, yes, Monday at 12 p.m. does really well, but think about how your work week flows, right? For us at Storyhouse, you know, we're in the real estate industry. Agents are out showing all weekend long. We all know that if we're in the real estate industry here. They're not going to be able to get on their phone and scroll through Instagram. Also, if we have families, right, we're trying to market to families, you know that at school pickup, is anybody a parent in here? Exactly. You know how crazy it gets. Like, you're not going to be necessarily scrolling on Instagram and Facebook at that time. So really think about, one, how your work week flows, but also how does your audience's work week flow? How do they experience a work week? Take a step in their shoes and think about that when you're thinking about scheduling. So I have this here. Like I said, take it with a grain of salt. This is generally a good kind of practice to follow, but do your own research, see what works, see what type of content and when gets the best results for you and your brand. Oh no, well, there was a very nice picture there. But the next category is content. Okay, this is like another one of those mic drop moments, right? You want to create content that you are proud of. It's really, really easy to go and get something free online. You Google, you know, best Instagram post, you have it, you post it, you put a caption. That's super easy and fine. But if you don't create content you're proud of, you're gonna look at it a year later, and I'm guilty of this too on my own Instagram. You're gonna look at it a year later, you're like, what am I thinking? Oh my goodness, I have to delete it all and start all over. So I always advocate to, one, create content that you're proud of, right? And what does that look like? So for us at Storyhouse, that looks like frequent communication. That looks like touch points that span beyond social media. Because social media is one thing, but the second half of this presentation is marketing. So the last little bullet point I have there is promote the town, not just the product. I'll get into this a little bit more later, and it may not be applicable to everybody in this room, but I do think it's a pretty good practice to follow. So we'll go into that more in a little bit. Oh, what a bummer. Well, anyway, So the next piece of content I always advocate for is email marketing. We all know how powerful and how long email marketing has been around, right? How many people have like a newsletter from some random company you signed up for in 2008, right? In your email, just like this random newsletter. So the benefit of monthly newsletters, if you don't already have one in place, which most people kind of start with that, and if you haven't started with that, I definitely recommend starting with that because one, it's super familiar. Everybody loves an email, everybody has an email generally. So that is a really, really easy way and so much time and so much space to share your story, right? So for us, we have our Story House Monthly, and what we do is life updates, we do client testimonials, we do market reports, which is obviously really specific to real estate. We also promote our blog, and we just share a little bit about our life, which goes back to that connection, goes back to that authenticity that we really want to see when we're thinking about social media. Oh, that one popped up. And another piece of content, this one is kind of like my baby, so I have a little bit of, it pulls on my heartstrings a little bit, but this is our Sincerely Story House. It's our blog, right? So you can kind of see it on every single slide right in the top corner and just kind of everywhere. But our blog is our space, again, to tell the stories of our clients, to tell the stories about organizations we're fond of, to tell the stories about people, our clients, right? You always want to position your client as the hero because we can all talk about how great we are. I can talk about all day about how great Story House is and how great all of you are, but what is going to be valuable for your client? What is going to be valuable for your audience, right? So this is where we have the space to do that. It's built into our website. It's one of my favorite things to write as a writer, so I always kind of advocate for some sort of blog if you don't already have one built in. Okay, so this is that third bullet point I talked about earlier. Promote the town, not just the product. I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but I just wanted to share a little bit of what we do at Story House. So we always advocate for promoting the town, not just the product. I talked a lot about how Charlottesville is this really connected community, right? So when we're selling a house, when we're having a client buy a house, right, they are moving to Charlottesville. They're not moving into their house on XYZ Street. They're moving to this city, they're moving to this community. So we want to document cultural events, we want to document festivals, we want to document all the fun stuff. We have a weekend events post that we post every single Friday, and people will tell me all the time, I didn't even know half this stuff was going on. Like, this is so cool, I get to go to all these things. So this is what we do, and it just really, really increases that consistency, A, because we do it every week, but it increases that engagement that we want to see. So, second bullet point there, this is a little bit optional and it does come a little bit later, but something we do is invite a colleague or a client to do like a takeover. Have you guys ever seen that, like a day in the life? We do it all the time. So this is really, really good and really impactful. It all goes back to that engagement. It all goes back to reaching your audience in a way that is really, really powerful and impactful. Again, I'll just move through this really quickly. Promote the town, not just the product. We do this local loves, we do multiple campaigns, we do business partner takeovers. We had one with Jacqueline's Cookies, who, if you don't know, fabulous cookies, very pretty. I should know as a cookie decorator. Former. We do vendor highlights, we do local events, which I've talked about. Something that's a little bit unique to us, we do location graphics. This really goes back to selling the town, not just the house, right? You're gonna have people who are moving in, they wanna know where they can shop, they want to know where they can go eat, where they can go work out, right? So this all reinforces that idea of connecting, of engaging with your audience, of spanning beyond just social media and continuing to touch them at different points. Excuse me. So this is the last category in that like consistency category, right? And it is consistency. I will not sugarcoat this. You have to try to post every day or every other day, or at least that's what I recommend. Because again, the algorithm loves patterns. They love knowing that Story House is gonna post every single day, or at least every other day, and they populate it to the top of the list, which is what we wanna see. So, beyond posting every day, try to use colors that are aligned with your brand. You're gonna see this pink everywhere throughout the whole presentation, right? You're gonna see this blue, you're gonna see teal, you're gonna see navy, and we do that because when our brains can recognize that color, you know it's Story House, and that is so powerful. I could do a whole presentation about that alone, the impact of color and consistency. And then the last bullet point is use good quality images. This is probably not the best example because it is very blurry right now, but it is super duper impactful when you use good quality images and colors that are aligned with your brand. Okay, again, I'll move past this, but posting every day, it is a lot, and I totally recognize that, especially if you're kind of working on this all on your own. But it is super impactful when people can come back to your page and know that Storyhouse is gonna have something Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday through Friday, right? I'm gonna wanna come back and see, what's Erin doing today? What's happening with Josh? What's happening with Grit Coffee? I wanna see that, I wanna engage with that. So posting every day is like the stepping stone to getting where you wanna go. So this is another thing with consistency. I talked a lot about branding and about how powerful it is when colors are aligned, when images are aligned. That goes with text too, right? And I'm the one kind of managing all the text, but what we use, and you can kind of see it on the right, but we use Trello, which is a really great resource if you haven't heard of it, but it's just a way for us to manage our content and collaborate. For us at Storyhouse, this is super important. You know, we have myself doing things on our social media, we have Amelia, we have Sasha, we have all of us, the whole marketing team, all at one time, so it can get a little crazy. So what we do is we use Trello to document everything. You can see us commenting at each other. You can see us doing the hashtags, doing the posts, so that we know we can go back and kind of do checks and balances, right? So that is really great. Trello is a really great resource, and I'm gonna blow it up on the second slide. This is how we manage our calendar. Trello, if you don't know, it's like a visual bulletin board, right? You can kind of see it. But this is how we manage. Like I said, Storyhouse, we are very formulaic. We love a system, we love a structure, we love a routine. And it's just really, really impactful when you know that on September 1st, I'm gonna do this post, September 2nd, I'm gonna do weekend events, right? So we plan national holidays, local spotlights, team highlights, all of that good stuff that we love. We just put it all on our social calendar so we know what's happening at any given day. Okay, pro tip. This is really great, and you've probably heard from every resource ever that talks about social media marketing, video is the way of the future, which is very true, and I'm gonna say the same thing. You have to start using Reels. If you're not already, you may already do it. But Reels, videos, and even carousels, you know, we've got this carousel post on the bottom, which is kind of like a series of photos when you're scrolling through. Carousels and Reels keep people on your page longer, which Instagram loves because they say, hey, this person spent 20 seconds on this post. Why don't we put this a little bit higher? Because other people are going to want to engage with that as well. So Reels, I cannot talk enough about Reels and how great and how impactful and how effective they are. Definitely want to do those. If you don't know, the description on the bottom, they are looping vertical video clips between 15 and 90 seconds long. That's so much time, right? That's really valuable. I think they say we have 3 seconds to catch someone's attention, which is really sad. It says a lot about our attention span and how that's developing as a society. But anyway, also, carousels provide a valuable opportunity to make multiple touch points with your audience. So it goes back to that connection, it goes back to that consistency, and just keeping engagement with your audience. One more pro tip for you guys, use stories. I know you probably have stories, you know what they are. This is kind of what it looks like when it's in a highlight version of the stories. After posting a photo, right, the algorithm is going to push it down maybe an hour or so after it's posted, which is not a lot of time. So what we do at Storyhouse, and what I recommend that everybody does, after you post your post, take it and put it into your story so that it just keeps populating again and again and again. People are going to open up Instagram, they're going to see your little circle at the top. They're going to click it, oh, what's Storyhouse up to today? They're going to see that post, they're going to check out that post, and it's going to populate again to the top. So it's just like this beautiful cyclical relationship that we really, really want to facilitate, right? Okay, I talked to you for a very long time, but now we're going to actually do a little bit of that interaction that I talked about. So you should have 4 pages. Everybody has that on your table. I want you to spend maybe 5 or 7 minutes just kind of filling things out. The first 3 pages we're going to do now. We're going to leave the last one for after. So take like 2 minutes, and if you want to share, if you prefer to do it verbally, that's totally fine. Share with a partner, but maybe if you can, take a few minutes to kind of fill that out. That'd be great. while you guys are doing that, I'm also going to fill it out here too. So I'm not free of that as well. I'll be right back while you guys are filling that out very quickly. A couple of different times, and it's always valuable. So when you get a chance, if you didn't get a chance to share with your partner, if you want to share with the group, I would love to hear some answers and what you guys have written down, if anybody is brave enough to share.
I'll share. So one thing, first page for me, profile picture, we talked about that earlier, but and I know at least Michelle will appreciate. So we're in the mortgage industry,
yeah.
And we're very, there are a lot of compliance issues around social, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, with Instagram, we're very limited in the characters for our bio, and
right.
You know, pretty much all of that is taken, and it's very dry. It's, you know, it's required, but so when I was looking at, does this bio describe me? I'm like, not at all. Like, it's just like, so I don't, you know, I tried to tell the story, you know, through my posts, but yeah, looking at my bio, and there's not a whole lot I can do about that. So
Totally.
now LinkedIn's a little better. I think there's a lot more character space there, but
Yeah.
Instagram in particular, there's no way to make it sound sexy or pretty or
cool and fun, yeah.
An MLS number, yeah, it's pretty bad. So I didn't know if you had thoughts on that or just kind of like, yeah,
yeah,
it's.
No, that's definitely hard to get around. I know, what is it, the number
Yes,
alone
exactly.
is like an entire line, right? So,
it is.
And I know even when we're creating our bio for Storyhouse, you don't have much space, just like you said. So
right.
That's definitely something to consider. And again, take this with a grain of salt. You know, if you have no wiggle room in your bio, don't worry about that. You've got your LinkedIn, like you said. You can even use your personal Instagram. I don't know if that has the same restrictions or anything, but
for us, if we post anything that's work related, it has to be posted first to our work accounts where all the disclosures are, and then we can post it to our personal. So
Gotcha. Well, those limitations, you know, can't necessarily work around.
Right.
I would definitely recommend kind of really thinking about that connection that you can make, right?
Okay.
You can connect with other mortgage lenders, right?
Yeah.
Who will have that same experience and know exactly what you talk
Yes.
about. I know we have one in the back as well. So definitely maybe bounce ideas off of each other, and this is where that interaction comes in again. But yeah, that is one of those things where maybe there's not a lot of wiggle room. So that is something you'll have to think about and I definitely encourage for that kind of industry, really focusing on LinkedIn, really focusing on Nextdoor, Glassdoor, all those things, you know. So that's where, like, if it's a little bit more professional, use that to your advantage.
Got it.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. Does anybody else? Yes, please.
I have a question. So when it said to think about, does your, I guess your non-spread, when you look at your portfolio, your picture profile and your wall for your post, does it feel on brand? So I have a book series, like a Mahogany and Friends book series and brand. And so the second book is like a boy book, it's a boy character, so the colors are kind of switching up. Do I keep it? Should I create colors for the overall brand and use them for every book and post, no matter what? Because how do I get them to identify that, oh, this is still Mahogany and Friends?
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I would say, you know, we have a lot of different colors too, maybe not to the same degree, but what we do is we have our logo, and I'm sure you have a logo. That is where you can keep that consistency, because you definitely want to differentiate. You know, you have these different audiences that you're trying to appeal to, right? So if you want to differentiate with the colors, which is a really great idea, you can keep that consistency with your logo, with your messaging, with your mission statement, and just kind of reinforcing that over and over is going to help with that repetition. So that is one of those things. Keep the color separation. I think that's good. If you have like an overall color scheme, keep that as well, but maybe keep it really consistent with that logo if you can. That's what I would recommend for sure.
Okay, and then I had one more question.
Yes,
I'll let
please.
somebody else complete. So you said to be consistent with posting, and you say to post, basically 7 days or 5 days a week,
Right.
Are you doing like 9 posts overall for the week?
So what we do, not only do we post every day, and this is a little bit like we have a little bit of a bigger bandwidth, we have a marketing team, so we post at least once a day, usually 2 or 3 times a day, and that doesn't necessarily mean just like a still image, right? It can be your stories, it can be a reel. We also post on different platforms, so we're going on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, so on and so forth. So I just recommend posting once a day, somewhere within that realm. That's really, really helpful with that consistency. So yeah,
Okay,
great
so
question.
Because what we were trying to do, or we were thinking of doing, was like, okay, we're posting Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Yeah.
And we post 3 times on that one day to
Mm.
keep my sister's like, we need to keep the profile looking nice, so we have to do 3 pictures so they can
Oh.
puzzle up.
I
So
resonate
I'm
with
like,
that for sure.
is that too much? Sometimes it feels like too much for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, it's a lot, and that's a lot of pressure on you, right? To know, like, first of all, you have to have 3 posts in that same day. You're gonna have to space it out so that one post is getting the correct amount of attention, and the second one, and the third one. So I would recommend maybe divvying that up a little bit and kind of just spreading that out. And multiple posts a day is great as it is, but if it's getting to the point where it's really inhibiting you, I would definitely recommend spreading that out a little bit. Yeah,
Okay.
great questions. Yes.
So I don't know if this is a suggestion, but I have seen a few pages where if you go to the grid by the 3x3,
Mhm.
one week they'll do a blue color scheme, and the next they'll do like a purple color scheme.
Mhm.
That way that you can divide and conquer with the different brands that you have. So you have this a girl's book or a boy's book. Maybe do one week fuchsia, the next week blue, and alternate your colors.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
That's a great idea. I love that for sure. Yeah. Whatever works for you, you know, you're trying to get your message across that, hey, maybe this is geared towards a certain audience, and this next series of posts is going to be geared to a different audience. So whatever works for you, whatever looks really well. I really like the idea of the colors kind of in that consistent pattern like that. Again, we love patterns. I've been saying it the whole time. So that is a really, really good comment, and thank you for sharing that as well. Does anybody else want to share or have ideas or thoughts? If not, we can move on. That's fine, but just wanted to give some time. Okay, we shall move on. So, we started this presentation with those first 3 categories, right? Which is all about creating consistent content. Now we're going to talk about how do I engage with my audience. And if you're kind of at a point where you're just kind of getting your toes wet and you're just trying to make the posts as they are and get them out of the door, right? You're not going to focus as much on this. But I do think starting with this from the beginning, starting with the concept that not only am I going to create posts, but I'm really going to make an effort to engage, is really going to take you to the next level. And with that engagement comes research and educate. This, again, is one of those things that you want to focus on a little bit later. Excuse me. But for us at Storyhouse, again, we're in the real estate industry, right? So maybe this looks a little bit different for you. But our goal, and your goal as well, on social media is to position yourself as the go-to expert for your audience, right? Mortgage lending. You want people to know what is going on, and you have that wealth of knowledge, and that's a big value to them. So definitely use that to your advantage, and I know you do, which is great. But also, us in the real estate industry, you know, we want to be an authority figure. We want people to know they can come to us not only when they're buying or selling, but when they want to understand loans, when they want to understand all these crazy concepts that are, you know, convoluted and very stressful when you're buying and selling a house. They know that they can come to us, Storyhouse, with all of those questions and get those answers, right? So, second bullet point, there's a lot of media and studies and data that are very complicated and very open to interpretation. So that in and of itself is one topic that I could cover. But the big thing is, with all of those conflicting ideas and thoughts, you want to be the person that they come to, that they can get that reliable information, right? And I've got a few sources at the bottom. The last 2 there are really relevant to real estate, so it might not be relevant to you. But Google Trends and Hootsuite, I talked about Hootsuite earlier, really, really good resources. Google Trends is where you're going to see what's trending, what's going on in the world. And what's going on in the world is really, really relevant, because when we're trying to engage with our audience, we want to know what they're thinking about. We want to know what they're caring about. Not necessarily what we have to say in that moment, but if there's something more important, you want to focus on that. And that brings me to this slide. This is one, we did 2 posts pretty recently, and I've just grabbed these and put them on there. Veterans Day just last week, I believe, we did a post on understanding your VA home loans and your benefits. This is really, really relevant because obviously we could just do a Happy Veterans Day post or thank you for your honor and your sacrifice and your service, which is great, but let's take it a step further. Let's engage. How can we engage? We can tell them what their VA loan benefits are, and that's really, really helpful. I think we got a few shares on that. So that tells me people want to hear that, people want to see that, and maybe they don't know, and we can be a wealth of knowledge for them. The second one there is near and dear to our hearts. We are a woman-owned company. We have a lot of women in the workspace, and we're Business Women's Roundtable. So October was Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And again, just taking time to recognize, you know, October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. We can do a post, which is all fine and good, but what we also did was highlight a dairy market. I don't know if anybody here works at dairy market. I thought so. I thought there was one person in the audience for sure. I know you guys did this whole DM goes pink, and we shared that, which is incredible in and of itself. And again, engages with the audience, engages with the community, and lets them know these resources are available for them. So be in the know. I cannot stress that enough. Next section, we have authenticity. And this is one of my favorite sections because social media, I feel like all of us can relate to wanting to be really poised and perfect all the time. I know I definitely want to, and I'm always like, does my nose look weird, or does my hair look weird, or like, what's going on there?
Does your nose look weird?
Does nobody worry about their nose? Oh, there you go. Maybe we're making
Beautiful nose.
But yeah, that authenticity, and there it is, transparency, which I have on there too. That is going to resonate with your audience. So people follow people they relate to. I know I do, and you guys probably can attest to that as well. You want to see people that you're interested in. You want to see people that you understand and can relate to, right? So your audience wants to follow that too and engage with people who they feel can be real at the end of the day. So we try to be very real. We have a couple of different campaigns that we do, and they're just little hashtags if you can read them at the bottom. We do this local love, which is where we share highlights from local businesses. We do Get to Know Us Wednesday, where we just share fun facts about our team and cute pictures and just let our audience really feel like we're not just trying to sell you a house, like we want to be real with you. We want to be authentic, and we want you to see that as well. And then the last one there, we do team takeovers as well, which I mentioned earlier, which is very effective. So this slide, brace yourselves, okay? I am really, really practicing what I preach here and expressing that vulnerability and that authenticity and that transparency, but I really encourage you to face your fear of showing your face, which you see it plastered all over the screen. This is really important because your audience and your followers, they come to your page to see you, right? So don't be afraid of showing your face. Don't be afraid of making videos, even if it's not perfect and polished. We talked about my nose earlier and how much I worry about that. Even if it's not perfect, they want to see that because it's authentic to them, and it's going to encourage them to do the same, right? Because I think we all have those doubts, especially as business women, maybe, you know, we have these self-doubts that I really encourage you to push through and just face your fear, and I think you'll find that there's a big, big reward because people are going to feel that authenticity. So face your fear of showing your face. Everybody today, I hope to see one selfie, at least on somebody's feed today.
Dear,
Yes?
would you say that perhaps that could be a generational thing? I would,
Good question.
Perhaps the older generation may not be so selfie driven.
That is a really good question, and yes, but I will say I do think it spans generations too, because I think no matter what our age difference is, I think we all are really afraid of showing our face, maybe not, but it's definitely a generational thing. You know, if you didn't grow up with social media, I've been on social media my entire life, for better or for worse, so I am very comfortable with showing my face, you know, and if that has not come easy to you, and I totally understand that and resonate with it, just kind of lean into it. Maybe start by having a couple of people in the picture. That's really helpful. You know, have yourself take the picture so you have a lot of control when you're taking that selfie, and maybe not a big group picture. That's always helpful. So yeah, just lean into it, get comfortable with it, but I do recognize it is very scary, which is why face your fear of showing your face. I do encourage you all to do it. I believe in you. We can all do it together, and I'm right there with you. So this next slide, I already went to it, but this is going to be that next category of branding. And this is super important because we really focus on this at Story House, and I think everybody should focus on this because We talked about that pattern. I keep going back to that word pattern and consistency, but that also includes uniformity, right? Because we want a really clean and we want an organized feed. At least that's what I want to see when I go on Instagram, right? So you want to spend time crafting and perfecting not only your images, right, but your mission statement and your message. You want to establish a tone that is really consistent and can be replicated into all pieces of your marketing and social media, not just your posts. That's all been fine, but also those newsletters we talked about, those blog posts we talked about. All of that will really help with your branding and will let people know this is Storyhouse when they see it, I hope. Last little bullet point there, you want to align your messaging and your branding to appeal to your target audience, right? It's good enough as it is to spend time crafting your message, spend time perfecting your image, but how is that going to appeal to your target audience, right? And that's what we want to focus on in this second section, which is engagement with your audience. So, establishing your brand. Oh, there's a very nice graphic that actually works today, which is nice. So here's a little tips and tricks. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because you guys already know, at least you can Google anything. You can Google, how do I keep my brand consistent? And all these resources will pop up. But for you guys, I've listed 5 down at the bottom. These are all really great. I'm going to go into Canva, which is that 4th one there, in a little bit. I highly recommend Canva, and I'll tell you why in just a bit.
Love it, love it, love it.
I know, right? Canva is incredible, it's super user-friendly, but I'll go into all of that in a little bit. But establishing your brand, you want to upload your logo, or if you have multiple logos, or if you have multiple audiences you're trying to reach, right? You want to upload those colors, you want to upload that font. We try to be very consistent with our fonts. We go to that level as well. So to any creative platform that you're using, you want to create that uniformity across the board, because that is what's going to create that really, really strong and compelling branding. Okay, didn't I say I was going to talk about Canva? Here it is. Canva, if you don't know, is probably the best resource I recommend for people who are kind of just getting started, or maybe you're not that comfortable with creating your graphics yet. Canva is a really, really great tool. So not only can you comment and collaborate, again, we have an entire marketing team. A lot of us are collaborating on different projects at one time. So Canva lets us have that space to get together and to say, hey, I really like this picture here, but maybe we can change it to our logo instead, or maybe we can edit that text, and Canva gives you that space to do that. Beyond that, there are so many elements, icons, graphics that are free. Canva is a free resource, but you can also pay for the pro version as well, which I do recommend if you have the bandwidth for that. There's so many elements, user-friendly, pre-made size templates, which is like amazing. You can literally search Instagram story and it'll have the things for you right there. I think it's 1080 by 1080 and it'll have it right there for you, that format, which is really helpful when you're trying to get content out every single day, right? And then the last bullet point there, it's going to streamline your brand, which is what we talked about with engaging. You can see there we have everyone's logos on our team. We have Slosh's logo on the bottom, Storyhouse's logo in the middle. We have all of that there, and it's really easy to click and drag, which is super helpful. Okay, we're back to that interaction again. I would love to play a little game with you, and this is going to go really quick. I know we're running out of time, but I just picked out a few brands that I think are really popular, and I would love if you guys can just point out, what do you see, what is telling you, what is sending that signal to your brain that this is whatever it is? Can anybody guess? What is it? So what brand is it?
Nike.
Yes, exactly. And what tells you that? Obviously we have the swish. Do you guys see that? I've kind of made it easy with the circles, but if you can see that as well, you know their tagline, their motto.
Just do it.
Exactly. So again, that's that really strong branding coming into play. This one on the right, take a look. This might be a little harder. I think I heard it. Target, exactly, which I am very familiar with, for better or for worse. My credit card is very familiar with it. Okay, and then we have that one on the left. Just yell it out when you have
McDonald's.
it. Exactly.
Starbucks.
You already knew it. You don't have to cue you guys. And then the last two here.
Ben & Jerry's.
Mhm.
Chipotle.
Yeah, that one's a little bit harder. Maybe they need to work on their branding. No, I'm kidding. But yeah.
What is it?
Chipotle. Yeah, and you can see, I kind of circled it, it's a little bit small to see, but they also have that green, right? Because when you think of green, you're thinking of fresh, you're thinking of guacamole, you're thinking of vegetables and health, which is all, again, reiterating what they're trying to put out to their audience. So it's really, really nuanced and it's really powerful. And you can see, you can identify that even when there's no context, which I hope this one is super easy.
Story house.
Yeah. Exactly. And something I kind of keep in mind is that if someone were to pick up like a printed out page of your Instagram feed, can they tell who it is? I would really hope that people can see the peacock there. We have it on every single image. They can see the pinks, the purples, the blues, the teals, and they can kind of glean from that. Okay, maybe this is Story House. I see the same people in the picture. I see that consistency. So that's what we want to strive for when we think about really strong branding. Okay, this is the very last section. I'm going to move pretty quick. I know I'm going to give you guys some time. I know we're kind of cutting it short, but the review comes after. This is what we do at Story House because we've got that a little bit of more time. We have that bandwidth. We have those people. So review is where everything comes into play. You've got your consistency. You've learned how to engage with your audience. Now you're going to figure out, okay, is this working? Am I growing? Am I increasing my followers? Am I increasing my reach? Right? That's what we want to check when we're tracking our results and we're doing our review. And this is a very overwhelming slide, but you don't have to look at the specifics, but I did just want to show you what we track, right? And I'll blow it up in the next few slides. We are tracking week by week how many followers we have on Instagram, Facebook, so on and so forth, how many reviews we have, everything. And this is how we work because we want to make sure that November 17th, 2023, did we grow? You know, did we grow from this amount of followers to this amount of followers, right? And where did that growth come from? Did it come from Instagram? Did it come from Facebook? This is what we do, and our end of review really looks like studying the numbers and analyzing the posts and determining which ones were good and which ones were bad, which ones performed well and which ones didn't do as well. Like I said, this is just the blowing up of the big portion that we had before. We track our followers through all of our channels. We track our reviews. As a real estate company, we're very service oriented, we're very client oriented. Reviews are super duper important to us, right? As they are with probably every business. So this is something that we want to keep our eye on. The next thing we track is engagement and our monthly newsletter. So I talked about our Story House Monthly a little bit ago, but not only do we track, you know, how many people it was delivered to, because that's important because you're gonna have people, it's being sent to spam, it's being bounced, they're unsubscribing, which is very, very sad, but you wanna see where it's being delivered to, and you wanna see how many opens there are and how many clicks. You can see this was earlier this year. From January to February, that's a major increase in clicks, which is a really good sign. It makes my heart very happy. But why are people clicking? You want to analyze that. You want to see what they're clicking on, and you can see that click map as well. So that is really helpful when we're thinking about our review. Again, this is kind of a culmination of the last few slides. This is where you find everything. If you have a business page on Facebook, you can see this Facebook Meta Business Suite where it has all these analytics listed out really nice and pretty for you. Same thing with Instagram. This is right on your phone. It's literally a screenshot. You can see all your insights there, which is really helpful. This is important to us, again, going back to that review, right? As a real estate company in Charlottesville, we're concerned with what people are Googling and where we sit within that search, right? Because when the first thing people do when they buy or sell a house, or they're looking to, they're gonna Google real estate Charlottesville, best real estate company in Charlottesville, whatever it may be. And we wanna be at the top, ideally, at the top of that list. There are so many great companies in Charlottesville. We want to make sure, or try to make sure that we're that top list, right? Because that's really valuable because we all base our opinions off of reviews, right? How many people go to Amazon and you scroll to the bottom and you see, exactly, you see the picture there, you see what people are saying about it, and it really impacts your buy and what you do with your money. So, full circle, I'm coming to the end here. After solidifying and implementing a plan for your social media, that's when the review comes in, right? So focus on implementing your plan first, and then you want to analyze the results, determine the desired outcome, and create goals for the future. Last little part here, if we have time for it, maybe we can just share out loud instead. This last little sheet here is confidence. This one is a little bit deep, and I would love to just hear, if you just want to vocalize your thoughts on it and just take some time to read through it. Or if you want to fill it out too, we can take a minute or so. But if you have any thoughts, I would love to hear your thoughts on this, because it is very powerful. Yes? Please.
Yeah, I feel that I'm a perfectionist, and I feel like I have to show up in a very curated, planned out way, and so it keeps me from, and I don't have time to really do that right now, and so it keeps me from actually being on social media how I want sticky note to be on.
Can anyone relate to that?
Yes.
You were gonna say something?
Oh, no, I can relate.
Yeah, right?
And then I guess also what I was gonna say is that doing the social media for my book business, I feel like I'm neglecting my business that actually, my career that puts food on my table. So.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, I'm managing all of social, or all of Storyhouse Real Estate social, and I am trying to do my own as well. Because it's impossible. So definitely focus your time and attention on what, you know, putting food on the table, that's priority, of course. But also, you want to kind of embed it in there if you can. And that's a challenge, right? How do you think you can kind of overcome that? What are your plans for that, if you have any thoughts on that?
Well, what I've been trying to do, but I get too detailed and I'm like, oh my gosh, my time slot has ran out.
Totally.
But I try to wake up earlier, and like early in the morning, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna create this much, or on the weekends, and then I get lost in research or finding the perfect song for this reel.
I know that's
Takes
true.
forever. The reels are so clunky.
Oh, I know.
Oh, I definitely relate to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, like, I feel like this era as well expects perfection, so it's also a lot of pressure to live up to that as well. And there are so many like apps that you can like edit yourself on, and I just feel like that's really negative and not great for your own mental health.
Very true.
So, like, I don't necessarily want to be in that category at all, but I also want to be authentic, but I also want to be like professional and relatable. So it's kind of like walking that balance of like, you do want your content to be consistent and beautiful and, you know, relatable, but you also don't want to go so far so that it's not healthy for you and it's, you know, encouraging negative thoughts about yourself.
Absolutely, and that's very well said, and really segues really well into these last few slides. I'll skip this one. I am the type of person who likes to find meaning in every single thing that I do. So I'm going to leave you with just a little bit of nuggets of inspiration that I find myself leaning on. This quote comes from originally Marianne Williamson, but I hear it from Sasha all the time, right? Your playing small does not serve the world, right? And maybe people can resonate with that. I hope you can. You deserve to take up space. You deserve to show up as yourself authentically. And also, if you want to be a little bit more polished, if that fits with your brand, you deserve to do all of those things and meet those goals and set those goals for yourself and go and get them. These audacious big goals that we have, you are allowed to do that because it's not going to serve the world if you're playing small and doubting yourself. I know we all deal with a lot of self-doubt, and it's very inhibiting. But I just want you to remember, your playing small does not serve the world. Last little nugget of inspiration. I love this quote. This is not really a quote, but just kind of something that I say over and over. Focus on connection, not perfection. And that goes with how you want to show up authentically, how you want to show up as yourself, but also in a poised manner. And I get that. But focus on connecting with your audience, focus on engaging, focus on finding that balance over perfection. And I always recommend that. Last little slide here. I'm just about done, but just things I wanted to remind you to do right now. I would love if you guys follow Storyhouse on Instagram and Facebook. Little shameless self-plug there. And also my handle is written there as well. It's all Nadira, Virginia. If you ever want to connect, I'll definitely follow you back and see you guys grow in the new year. So also leave here today with a list of monthly next steps. I think that'll be really valuable for you guys as you leave here today. And there's time for questions, but I know we all have to head out, so thank you so much.
Thank you.